Hey,
Hey.
do you want to make me a? Oh yeah, cool. I'm co-host.
Yep.
Um, and then
I co-host all the board members.
okay. Um,
It's also helpful because it kind of denotes that they're, you know, board members. I don't
yeah.
know.
Who is gonna have the slide deck up?
I would prefer not to. My shoulder has gone from not great to worse. So
Okay,
I'm gonna be kind of here.
gotcha. Um, I would like to not to as well because oh man. I am okay. I did come up. I'm gonna be doing co-hosting, and it's easier to see all like the participant stuff if you're not sharing.
Yeah. If I need to, I can. Like that's not a problem. But
Yeah.
I would just prefer not to. How are you, Colleen?
Oh, hey, yeah, I'm not bad. How are you? Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. I need to my I need to leave the house tomorrow because my driver's license and car registration is expired today.
Mm.
I used my car like maybe 3 times this month, so I kind of forgot about it.
They didn't extend that up there?
I don't believe so.
Massachusetts extended till they bumped everyone like 3 months extra.
Oh. All right. Well, maybe I mean, I shouldn't, it's nothing to be worried about anyway, but
No, but it's just a
that's good because now it's like, oh wow, now I have to leave the house tomorrow and do so many errands. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that might be nice. I don't have to. That's good.
all right. I have enough people co-hosted now that I can take off the chime.
Aw, yeah.
So I kind of just I didn't really tell anyone I was doing this, but I kind of made it my habit to just co-host all of the board members every meeting. So
That is the correct thing to do.
yep. Well, no, just from a like I've been doing that, but I don't think I ever mentioned it out loud to anyone.
Hmm.
It was noticeable for me.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Hello, Catherine, and hello, everyone else. How is
Hey, Kiara.
Hey,
everybody?
Hey.
Hi, Gray. Hi, Colleen. Hello, everyone.
For the love of God.
my oh, cool. Oh, who has the slide deck? Catherine, do you want to pull a slide deck up?
Yeah, I can do that. Is Yenny sharing?
She said she'd prefer not to because she's not been feeling hot.
Oh, okay. Humanity forward.
Yeah, my shoulder is I'm probably gonna call my doctor because this is excessive even for me. So, yay.
Where is everybody?
I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. Oh,
I was like so.
honestly,
The protests.
yeah, there are a lot of protests going on today, so I wouldn't be surprised if.
I mean,
Wow.
I've got
10
Matt
people.
from
This
Zach
is
and Matt show
amazing.
up next to the screen here, so like I can understand if people are tuned in because almost all like there is a whole bunch of Yang Gang streamers that are out there, and 2 of them went missing last night for a couple of hours.
Wow.
So like people are like really focused. So I would not be surprised if that ends up being a low turnout.
Yeah.
Apparently, this whole week there will be a lot of organizing. I know in Nashville, where I'm at, they've already got a few actions planned that I plan on attending. Apparently, in Murfreesboro, which is like just south of me, there was already some really crazy stuff going on. It just started happening, so I agree. It makes a lot of sense to me, and I hope that people are being careful. But I am really proud to see the Yang Gang getting involved and taking
Yeah.
a stand.
Kim posted somewhere that the Minnesota Yang Gang is trying to start putting together some relief effort kind of stuff for food and cleaning supplies for dealing with the aftermath of all of this to make sure that people have food and water and stuff like that. Basically a food pantry for those whose everything is being destroyed, because there's a lot of people being caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
So I think that Kim posted that on Slack somewhere.
That's pretty awesome.
They're organizing it in the Facebook group. Or at least is what she said.
Which Facebook group?
The Minnesota one.
Oh, okay.
Massey just messaged me saying, "Hey, can you add me as a Zoom account owner or something? There was a big mishap on the Zoom link."
I don't know. I gave him the link and,
Yeah, so I got here from the calendar, Google Calendar, but when I tried from the Slack channel, it said meeting at 3 p.m., 12 noon Pacific time.
What?
Yeah.
okay. I'll see if it, make sure it's the same link.
Mine was the other way around. The Google Calendar didn't work for me, but a different Google Calendar than the California one.
Lehman said the same thing happened.
This meeting is also missing from my meetings list.
It's the same link in the calendar as in,
Heck.
all right. Anyways, let's get going. We'll keep an eye out for folks. Can someone who's a co-host watch the Slack for people saying that they're looking for the link, they can't get in?
Okay, yeah, I'll copy the link from the calendar because that's where I got in. The one thing I will say is that everyone on here right now is people who are pretty well involved with everything going on. So
Yeah,
I don't mind
I'm the
us.
worst person to be slide sharing. I wish someone else could do it, but let's see, where is it?
I think the problem might be that this meeting is for some reason no longer on my hosted meetings list on Zoom. And I have no idea why. I'm very confused.
All right. Anyways, let's get this meeting started.
We can sort it later though.
All right, I cannot see anyone, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
go into present. And my laptop actually dies from time to time, so I might not be the right one to do this. Is there someone else who could share the slides that's here? Like, and we can just try.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if that's the case, then I can. Can you do the like co-hosting?
I can do it. I can do it. Could you put the link in the chat though?
Yeah.
So that way I don't have to click around too much. This being my right arm sucks.
No, Yenny, I can take care of it, but can someone?
No, it's fine. No, it's just more like getting to the link and
There it is.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, I see regional organizing. I see Kimberly
it's
here,
telling me
Yara, Colleen. All right.
oh, there.
All right, apologies for getting started a little late.
Okay.
The other thing that we can do is, given who's here, and if nobody else shows up, maybe we could show folks the update that we're sending to Humanity Forward tomorrow.
That sounds good.
Yeah, because everyone who's in here right now are people who are pretty well up to speed on what we're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could probably go through a speed round of the slides.
Yeah.
All right. Yenny, were you able to
Yes.
pull it up?
There we go.
Nice.
All right. Let me get my screen set up.
All right, let's go. Everyone here knows the first couple of slides, so we can just skip those.
Hold on, my screen's doing a weird thing. Sorry. Okay, there we go. No, don't. Okay. So I'm just gonna skip them.
Yep. Okay. Big news for everyone here. Eileen Patterson has stepped down from the interim national board, but she's still active. She's still active at the state and regional levels. So, you know, we're sad that we don't have her on the board, but you know, she's still heavily involved at the state and regional level. So, you know, but we just wanted to announce that. Second thing is I'm going to have Yenny present about, you know, to kind of go through the update we're sending to Humanity Forward.
Do you want me to do that after the next bullet or now?
And then also we're meeting with Andrew Yang tomorrow at, I'm sorry, not tomorrow, next Monday. So kind of use the feedback channel to kind of let us know if there's anything else that we should include. So, you know, we're kind of the representatives for the whole wider movement. There can only be like the small handful of us on the board in that meeting, but sorry, distracting stuff at home in the kitchen. I forgot I had something in the oven. Apologies. All right, Yenny, can you open up the Humanity Forward update? All right, we'll just zip through this. So you guys probably know, you know, a lot of this content.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
It's loading.
Okay.
Now I can. Now it's up.
Cool.
All right, let's skip ahead. We can skip all the charming pictures. All right, so we just give them some stats of how it's going. The email support team, I think, is something new to a lot of the people here, but the volunteers who dealt with info@yang2020.com are now dealing with info@movehumanityforward.com, and they're totally kicking ass. So, you know, Humanity Forward is doing so much better, courtesy of Lauren and, you know, that whole team, Carlos, everyone there. All right, moving on. So candidate support, which I think everyone here is pretty familiar with. We won't get into regional organizing because Lamont and Keith might want to show that slide deck to folks. Really exciting that Yang Gang Goes to Congress has, as Angelo said last week, they've gotten an invite from Representative Tim Ryan to, you know, invite people to the House, and they're scheduling when that will be. Skipping ahead. We won't talk about diversity and inclusion or organization management because those will come later. Skipping ahead. Yeah, I think the rest of this is all stuff that pretty much everyone here knows. All right, we will go back to the working groups now. So if anyone has any feedback on that or things that we should add into our weekly update, let us know. All right, Kimberly, all yours.
Hello all, I am Kimberly San Diego here. We are letting you know we have an approval vote for our mission statement that we've crafted, spent many weeks and hard hours. And we thank everyone on the team for putting in all the hard work and brain cells to make this happen. The proposed mission statement is to amplify the voice of the people, to put integrity and humanity first. We champion policies that value human well-being over profit and tackle economic inequity at its roots, creating opportunities for communities to thrive. We engage elected officials, advance candidates, and support community leaders by galvanizing a broad coalition and mobilizing a grassroots movement. We hope that everyone loves it and will vote and give us your feedback in that survey as well. Thank you.
All right, on to the next working group. Ooh, Keith and Lamont, you guys have some time if you want to dig into the regions updates, but take it away.
Sure, I can do this one. So this is Keith from Massachusetts. So we in regional organizing are doing regional outreach, although these regions are not like finalized yet. We're just using those and having volunteers from our working group contact folks in those regions to update contact information, check volunteer activity level, and you know, just get a sense of what's going on in the state. And then once we reach out to folks there, we are having them update a slide deck that you can see at that link that I shared there. And then we also have like private temporary state channels that we're creating. And those are essentially just places for volunteers, local volunteers to, you know, update their state's information, get a sense of what's going on in their state, and from there, hopefully host regional Zoom hangs. We've had a number of these hangs so far in a couple of regions. And then the last thing we're doing in our working group is brainstorming a couple of things. One of them being benchmarks for chapters, local statewide chapters, to track their progress. So for instance, do they have like a website? Do they have state leads that are connected with the national movement? That sort of thing. We're also drafting a an agreement for local chapters to, just kind of be more cohesive. And then we're also kind of deciding on what might be the most practical, like, naming convention for chapters.
All right, since we're pretty small, Yenny, can you open the regions update and we'll just take a quick look at that?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of messages, well, a
Great.
bunch of, that people are having trouble getting in.
Gray's in the Slack. I see him messaging and putting the link
Okay,
around.
okay. All right, this one?
Mhm. All right. So there's new Zoom hangs coming from the Northwest, and the Gulf states are organizing one. We're drafting, and this is what Keith was inviting folks to come into the into our channel to kind of join these conversations about, we're drafting, like, what is the agreement when chapters are formed, such that there's not this personal ownership of, I founded this, chapter, it's mine. And, this caused some splintering during the Yang 2020 campaign time. So we're trying to preemptively, draft something to avoid that. Then we're also kind of talking about the development of chapters, like as a first level chapter, just having 2 reps to the state level, from the state level to the national level, and then at least 1 local and city chapter with 2 leads, and then some platform where you're all communicating, like a Facebook group or wherever, and then at least a way for folks to sign up and join. So that's kind of like the bare minimum. And then, as was mentioned before, Colleen had a really good point where she suggested having the state name first. So that way, when there's 50 things in your, like, Facebook groups you might belong to, it won't just all be, Humanity First Movement, Humanity First Movement, Humanity First Movement, with the state cut off the back where you could see the state. But the one thing, this is up to the states how to do it, but the one thing that we don't recommend is Humanity First State or State Humanity First, because that belongs to another organization that has been around for over a decade. It's an international aid organization. All right. And now to the exciting thing. If you skip to the next 2 slides. Oh, and then, sorry, I forgot this part. So we, we're kind of working on state websites, branding, social media presence, and Texas had a very nice model. They are hibernating their Yang 2020 social media pages, and then they're redirecting folks to new Humanity First Movement accounts. So it just allows us the space that when folks are not, that we expand this movement wider, if there is a Yang 2024, we won't get into a debate with people about, like, oh, we want to switch this back to Yang 2024. So again, all this is up to the states, but just a nice model that are recommended. And then Michael Prinz from Iowa, they have set up the first subdomained state website. And he's offered to help other states that want to set something up similar to this. It's all within our organization, our organizational Google platforms and G Suite accounts. So that's kind of what we're suggesting, that we have this subdomain, yourstatesinitials.hfmovement.org. And so all the state websites can be together, but that's an ongoing conversation. Okay, now skip ahead 2 slides.
Steve, this is the many first movements weekly update call. You're thinking you were in the wrong room or something?
Yeah, we can probably chat with him on the side,
Yeah.
but let's just
Okay.
kind of page through the state updates. So we won't talk about them, but we'll just kind of go through, and folks can look at these slides later for themselves. But this is just kind of the current status of Arizona, and then California, and Georgia, and Iowa, and Kentucky, Massachusetts, Nevada, Tennessee, and Texas. So those are all the states that are kind of active and participating right now. And we expect through this recording, other folks will say like, hey, we're out here too. So come on into the national Slack, send up a representative or two here, and let us know that you're out there and working, and we will add you into this. So we're just kind of reactivating the body. All right. Who's speaking for Grow 10X?
I think this was Brendan.
All right, they are.
Who is one of the people who couldn't get in somehow?
Well, they are growing, and there's the link. And if you're, definitely give them feedback in that Grow 10X channel. And I think Kiara is here.
Hello, everyone. So our update per the meetings, the two meetings that we had last week on Thursday are as follows. The disability community had their introductory brainstorm session. It was actually the first of its kind within our project Connect and Learn. The general discussion in and of itself was on the best ways for our organization to reach, appeal, advocate, and assist this community specifically. Other specific discussion topics included appeals and concerns in regards to the Yang 2020 campaign, issues and policies that needed to be highlighted within our organization that are not necessarily addressed by any other group or organization, and identifying subgroups within the disability umbrella and the ways in which they overlap. We also had two roundtable discussions in our weekly standing meeting. The first on presidential candidate Joe Biden's Breakfast Club comments and Andrew Yang's subsequent reaction via CNN. And the second on George Floyd and the resulting direct action that's currently occurring all across the country. And that's it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So for comms, wow, this whole slide was really hoping that there would be people volunteering here. But the main activity is that we're getting active now on social media. We are on Twitter, Facebook. Discord is logged in. We're not quite revealed on there yet. Reddit and YouTube, we're still getting that account put together. But what we have going on now, which anyone can participate in, is that we're making content and pumping it out there. So these are the instructions for how you go to the social media page or the social media channel, and you can submit content onto a pinned post. And then if while you're there, you can approve content. And then when you are out in your social media land on Reddit and wherever, please, this is stuff that you can upvote and share. Particularly, we are trying to be sharing calls to action to bring in more people for COVID calling. And over in these links with make your own. It's easy. Yenny put together a little great little walkthrough on how to make your own testimonials. So you can create content out of what you learn about people's stories from your COVID calls. And so hoping to find someone who would edit Zoom meetings and back them up to the cloud, even if you just volunteer to do it this week. It doesn't have to be a long-term standing position. All right, and the next 2 slides are examples.
I'd really, really use the help with that.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
really backlogged.
we've got, maybe any one of the dozen people here wish to step up. Text, send a message to Yenny. How's that sound? Reach out. And then I think the next 2 slides.
Yeah, I think that also just from a perspective of the fact that most of the people in here are fairly in the leadership-y
Yeah.
category, I think it's important to note that we want content from y'all's groups too. Anything that you think that you need to get out there to the Humanity First Movement folks on social media, let us know. Stuff like surveys or stuff that we want to like open up to a broader public. We'll be doing that as well.
Yeah. Or things or successes you've had in the last like week or two.
Mhm.
Sharing good news is helpful.
I'm sorry, I may have missed this, but when does this group meet?
Saturdays at 1 o'clock Eastern time. 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Moving on.
Yeah, there's comms, which is the like social media posting and management side, and then there's content creation at 5:30.
Can you show folks here the place where they can go put things to be retweeted?
Yeah, that's the next slide.
Oh, okay, good.
Or the slide after. That's it. That's what it's going to look like. And that's on the, subgroup social media channel. And then the next slide is the first page of Yenny's little how-to, which Kira has done. It's very pretty.
All right. I don't know that there's anyone here from candidate support, but
They didn't have any.
And I thought I saw Ian here before.
I don't think Ian.
Yeah, he told me he had to step out.
Oh, okay. We can come back if he needs to.
okay. Continuing.
So I'm pretty sure you guys know that there's a calendar that you can put on your calendars, and I'm not entirely sure if this is the most
Yes. Can you, let's see, can you go over to the calendar channel and
Yeah.
show the last post in there?
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone here knows this, but there is a second calendar now. It is,
Can you see the Slack?
no, I just see
Okay.
the slides. There's a second calendar. So if you go into the calendar channel, you'll
There we go.
find that there's a Humanity First Movement community calendar. So if you click that second image that's with the post, can you open the second image that's attached to the bottom of the post, or it's just having lag? Oh, okay.
It was not sharing my screen. It was sharing a window.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're actually looking at the the live calendar. So
Is that what you're on now? You see it?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so this is just like the meditations that Colleen has done, the humanity hangs that Kimberly and others have done. Wago in Hawaii at 4:30 p.m. his time, but like 10:30 Eastern time is doing guitar lessons. So basically anything that kind of falls, we're putting the regional hangs up here, but anything that's kind of the more social side of the Humanity First movement. If you're hosting, please ask and we can easily add you as an editor to this calendar. And then back in the Slack, those links were just if you wanted to add it as a layer to your own calendars. You can use the iCal links, or if you have a Google Calendar, you can use those emails. And yeah, so you can turn it on and off as a layer. All right, so we had 17 people making calls this week. They called just over, made over 1,000 phone calls, and they were able to, let's see, I think I have better data that is on here right now. Basically, we need to recruit COVID callers. There's over 100,000 people who have applied, and they've really automated the process a lot. They're sending emails and texts to get people to confirm their PayPal account or their Cash App, but what they're calling through is the people that haven't responded to those. And so money is getting paid beyond the calls, but there's still just so many people to reach. And let's see, I think the stats were they were able to connect with 216 people. So it's about like a 20% completion rate. There's 860 people that they called, making over 1,000 calls. And the folks on the slide listed are the folks that made those calls this week. So the ones that are in blue are the ones that are callers from last week as well. So they've made 2 weeks worth of calls, and the brand new callers are the ones in purple. So we just really need to scale up, get that money to people. And I know there's some people here who have made those calls. So if anyone wants to pop on and, give a shout out for what it's like to be a COVID relief phone banker, I'll kind of pause and see if anyone wants to say anything about it.
I mean, I think
Yeah, it's super simple. Most of the time, you're just checking that they're not home. And occasionally you'll talk to someone and you just run through a short list of questions kind of related to their money situation, which they don't have to answer. But we tell them we're doing this because it helps the donors know a little bit more where the money's going, how it's being spent. But I've also talked to people like, you ask what job, if their hours were cut, what line of work they're in. And so then we find out, oh, they're in the arts. And so now we're following each other on Instagram, and like, I don't know, it really gets to be something very different from phone banking. That's been my experience. Check.
Yeah, I was going to say that my experience with it is that you really get to connect with people in a very personal way. So unlike phone banking where you're bothering someone because they may or may not be interested in politics, these are all people who applied and like need the help. And getting to see kind of how this has impacted the country and getting to do a small thing that helps them get some relief from this is cool. And I think that, so Colleen talked about a lot of people not being home. But one of the things that I did was I would text people to let them know why I called. And generally they got back to me pretty quickly and were you know, like they're very appreciative. Like this is something that does make a difference to them. So that was cool. Check.
All right, Kimberly, do you want to talk about kind of the latest on the Bail Out the People lobbying?
I know that we have revamped the website and we've put in new content for all of our letters. We are kind of redirecting and constantly updating the language on the letters that are going out. So please do go in there on a regular basis to bailoutthepeople.com and sign letters as often as you can, and those will be sent out. There is some data coming out that we want to provide you with. I'm going to be working on that. Maybe we'll be releasing that next week. That can kind of help everyone understand where we're being really successful and where we might need to have some pushes, different parts of the country that are getting less letters sent in. So please send in letters. Do the big push right now is when they might be listening to us, hopefully. So.
Yeah, the nice thing about this is when you go to the Bail Out the People website, there is, you know, a send letters link. And when you click on it, you put in your address and it kind of pulls up your congressional rep and senators. And then it gives you kind of a letter template, but you can totally customize it. So they're kind of like, as Kimberly said, every couple of days, Income Movement is updating it based on kind of what's happening, where the bills are, what the push is, you know, just updating it for the evolving situation. But you can always change that text and hit send, and then it goes straight to their congressional emails. It's very,
Yes.
It's really well set up, and Income Movement is doing an amazing job. And then they have these update calls Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and you just join that Zoom link, and it's usually a small group of people there, and you can really get caught up on, you know, what's the latest, what's the push, what's likely. They're in direct contact with several folks in the House, mostly. I haven't heard if they've had particularly tight connections with senators. But yeah, Income Movement is definitely one of our best partners in this pressuring for, you know, bailing out the people, not just, you know, the Wall Street. And then Distributed Forward.
Thank you, Catherine.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, so, and then Distributed Forward is a super efficient, you know, really great partner with us doing like text banking and calling for candidates, and more candidates are coming in there. So if you are supporting candidates, suggest that they check it out because it is very, very affordable. All right. And Brenna has started having a noontime Eastern time daily volunteer call to like kick off kind of answering any questions that people have. She's putting the recording in the #2 volunteer opportunities channel every day. So if you're curious what the call is, hop in that channel and you'll see her past couple of days worth of calls. But it's basically just answering questions for people about, you know, how to get involved with candidate support, you know, really bringing people into that COVID relief calling, and, you know, sending people into the congressional pressure that Kimberly was just talking about. So yeah, you can even just take the recordings and, you know, share those recordings in your Facebook groups and your Slacks. All right.
Should we be sharing these on social media?
I
On our posts and having people retweet and share it from there?
don't know. That's a Brenna question.
Okay.
Because I
can't
don't think there's
remember
anything in there that is private, but
Yeah.
that's a good question to get those
Okay.
numbers up.
I'll get back to y'all on that because I'm on both sides, so I should know that.
All right, let's see. No candidate spotlight tonight, I believe. All right, we got 15 minutes left. We can just have a nice little round table. Any questions from folks who aren't on the board, and just there's stuff that you're like, hey, what about this? Or stuff that folks have questions for other working groups that are here, that you heard something that you were really interested in.
Lehman had a question about update from HQ.
Oh, did we get an update from Erica? I don't know that I've seen one this week.
No, I think she's planning on doing that soon. Oh, to HQ. Oh, that was so that was the brief slide deck that we showed first. Do you want me to go back to it, Catherine, or?
No, I can just post the link to that in.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've just been drafting this, and we're sending this to them tomorrow.
Keith has the hand up.
Go for it.
Hey, so I had a question about comms. So I love that idea of being able to kind of get the word out for, what might be happening in channels through comms. I was just wondering, like, what the avenue is there. I think you covered it briefly, Colleen, but I missed it. Is it just kind of like we would post to the channel in that case and ask for help there?
Or? So for posting in comms, the request threads that Colleen had are really like you can post, like if you're like, hey, I would like a graphic or something to be shared about this event. But if you have something that's already created, it's really to say, could you guys blast this out? Like, we have something we've done with regional organizing, like this is our finalized map, or we want feedback on this map, or we have an event coming up, like a talk or something that we want people to pay attention to, and that's something that we'll push out.
Yeah, so there are two channels, and the one that Gray was talking about, that's in the comms subgroup social media channel. So right, that's where we just queue up things to be approved to go out and go out. And then Stephen, I think where we had that exchange, that was probably in the content creation channel, but where you have like works in progress or an idea for content that you want to collaborate on, we would put that in the content channel, and that can just start its own message. That we haven't set up a round of threads for that. Does that answer the questions?
Yep. Yeah, totally. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks both of you,
Okay.
Colleen and Gray.
You know what I wonder the people's problem is? I got like a very insistent notification from Zoom that if I did not update to Zoom 5.0, I would not be able to join meetings. So I wonder if people haven't done that update. All right, that doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but. Hey, Kiara, can you, was there any interesting stuff that got shared during the, you talked about kind of the roundtable discussion of, the current protests that are going on right now? Was there anything that kind of came up during the working group discussion that you thought would be worthwhile to share here?
I thought it was really productive. I thought that we worked through a little bit, like there were some questions that were asked, and I was able to provide perspective. People seemed like genuinely, I don't know, honestly, like we were really all on the same page. Like that was kind of the most heartwarming aspect about it. If I were to do it again, I'd like to maybe make it a little bit longer. But I thought it was a really productive conversation, and it was nice to be able to address these sensitive issues, even in regards to like Andrew's comments, with people just like patiently listening and like not, feeling emotionally wound up to the point to where they'd have like too much of a reaction. So yeah, I thought it was really productive.
I wonder if tomorrow we can have that as a topic of discussion at my hang.
Well, we just did rush through the Sunday meeting with 9 people. All 9 different than here, which means, that's more people discussed, but there's apparently something happened with the Zoom link or Zoom, but the one.
So Zoom, you had to update to the newest version is part of it. And then there's also an issue where for some reason this meeting is no longer on my Zoom meeting list on my account. I'm the host, the account that it's on. So I honestly have no idea what happened. So I was trying to figure out for the past hour while also clicking the slides. I literally can't figure it out.
Okay, sorry. Who was just talking?
Massey.
What ended up working for you?
That link, I think Brenna opened it, and there was 9 of us. It was me, Brenna, Tom, Brendan, Joyce, and 1 or 2 other people I didn't know. And like we got through all the slides and everything, and answered a question. It went well, besides the fact there was only 9 people.
So you guys had your own?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah. So
I'm like ultra confused now.
Yeah, we had some other one because the link that was there, when you click it, it says this meeting is scheduled for 5/3/20 at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'm like, that's not good. When I clicked that, and it was like, 8:33 Eastern, and I'm like, I've been trying. It was saying that from when I opened it, and I was like, that's why I was panicking in the board channel, like, why is it's saying this thing?
Weird.
So it seems.
Well, honestly, I was planning on making a new link for next week anyway, and doing a registration thing. That way we can push the link out further. Okay. But I was going to bring that up tomorrow night to discuss, and I think that's a pretty pertinent thing.
We'd love you to add it to the backlog. We have a backlog now inside our folder. So Ian and I spent quite a few hours today working on the ways of working, including building a backlog. Ratner?
I look forward to learning about them tomorrow evening.
Yeah, so it felt very productive, and we felt very good about it.
Okay, there's 10 people on this meeting right now that was happening. So instead of us talking about troubleshooting, someone was asking a question when you joined, and I want to find out who that was. But we can, something weird is happening. So, yeah. But I just want to be respectful of whoever was asking that question.
Noted. I'll keep going.
Was it Kiara? Was that you talking before, or had it switched to someone else?
It was Kiara.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I kind of like ended what I was saying. But yeah, like if anybody wants me to make like more statements about like how I personally feel about any of this stuff or anything, like just let me know. I didn't really want to make it too much about how I personally felt. And I'm really glad that we were able to provide a space for people to just like say what was on their mind without censoring themselves, because it's part of what is so difficult about these conversations. People feel like they have to walk on eggshells with each other. and that's not productive. So that's pretty much where I'll end it.
Yara, I wonder if you might be willing to lead a discussion at the hang tomorrow on this topic.
I'd love to. We can
Okay.
talk about this after if you'd like.
Perfect.
Are there any other questions on, we want to go over on from the slides, or anyone is curious on the things we covered, or specifically about a few working groups maybe that they're not in that I could maybe speak to? I tried to do my best
We went through the whole slide deck here too.
Yeah, we did the whole meeting.
Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that. Did y'all cover org structure?
No, we skipped it.
Okay, then could I do a quick pitch for org structure?
Totally.
All right, sweet. So one thing we've been focusing on is trying to get everyone and all the working groups aligned and see what everyone's doing exactly, build a better database, and then make sure we don't have two groups spending a bunch of energy doing the same thing, as well as make sure there's not huge gaps of stuff that needs to be getting done and getting people on them. So we're building a sort of going along with our org structure visual chart. We first need to have a database of the current state of all the working groups, what everyone thinks they're working on and is in their scope, and then what they feel like would be best for them to be doing in the future, and if maybe they should create a separate working group to take some of their tasks or bring in some stuff of other working groups. So please send me a DM of sort of answer to any working groups you're in, what you think y'all are doing now, and your current scope, and what you think your future scope, and if you think you should be incorporated with any other working groups, or build off and split off and create another working group to pick up stuff that y'all can't cover. So please DM me on that. I am Richard. I'm Massey Branscombe, he, him, and Texas on Slack. So that would be super helpful in getting everyone aligned and our wheels go in the same direction. That's it. Any questions for org structure? I'm just doing a post and announcements like Zoom, Sunday meeting wackiness, and sort of letting people know that what happened. We had multiple Sunday meetings go on at once, but have no fear. Everything will be sorted out. This seemed to be sort of a Zoom in thing that caused a bunch of confusion, not us.
I wonder if somehow it went to breakout rooms, and so everyone ended up in these separate breakout rooms.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, we would see him come in first.
Yeah.
Yeah, because breakout rooms still happen within the same link. And it seems like both of the links, are they actually different?
Yeah, I checked. They had different numbers.
I don't understand how that happened, because the link hasn't changed in weeks. Like, I've had the same link for 6 weeks now.
I had the same trouble last week.
What link are y'all using? Every week I use the one inside the calendar channel.
Yeah,
I use whatever's on Directory of Documents.
Oh, the Directory of Documents.
That's the web calendar, or is that the link on the document page of some kind that I don't know exists?
It's the web calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's the same thing that you click it's the Google Calendar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Google Calendar for me, the layered one in my Google Calendar, that's the one that was not leading me here. I had to go to the one in the California one that Kim adds, and that one was accurate. I think last time I also used the one from the calendar channel.
That's weird, because when I'm looking at the Humanity First Movement calendar, it has the same link as this one here and the one in the calendar channel. So
there must just be an encrypting issue right now, like a dissemination issue. I don't know.
I mean, it might be the fact that the thing is no longer on my Zoom account. Like, I've got all my scheduled meetings named, so that I can like easily reference them, and the weekly meeting is no longer on there. And I don't know why.
I mean, Yenny, you said that you were going to remake a
Yeah.
link anyways. I mean, just remake the whole event, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Delete the
Well,
event.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
you can't really make a new link for the same thing. You just have to make a new thing.
But I mean, in the calendar too, when you're recreating the event, maybe that will help to fix the problem.
Oh, no, I meant like a new thing on Zoom, because it's a new link, so it's going to automatically give me a thing to populate onto the calendar.
Yeah, I know, but my suggestion is to also create a new event in the calendar, and that might help.
It does that when I make a new event on Zoom. It gives me that thing that just goes right over to Google Calendar, and then I'll delete the old one.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I'm understanding what you're saying. Sorry.
Gray, so you sent me one link and just a couple minutes ago, and then I clicked on it and I was still saying not working. It's giving the 5.3, which I have no idea where that comes from. But then you sent me a new one. Where did you get the new link from versus the old link?
So the first link I sent you was the one I got off the DoD, and the second one I sent you was when you click invite and it says copy invite link.
Invite from what?
Under participants.
How did you get to be part of this meeting?
I clicked on the one from the directory of documents, the Google Calendar, and it sent me here. And then the link I sent you is from the underneath where it says participants, there's a button that says invite, and I sent you the link from there.
That's so weird, the fact that we had created 2 meetings. That's so weird. Anywho, also extra weirdness, the link, the account we were using, it was a free thing. So after whatever the allotted time, an hour or whatever it was, it closed the meeting out and kicked everyone out. So
I thought they weren't reinstating that yet, even.
Yeah, but Yenny, you can have a free. You don't have a free account, do you?
No, I've got a paid account.
Yeah.
So,
this is the link that I just posted in the chat. This is the link from this Zoom we're in right now.
So yeah, the
I'm
one
so
with
confused.
password K1V and it's 7311, that one, that ended up being a free thing that kicked us out after an hour or whatever the time it was. So we luckily got through the entire agenda and was able to answer one question. But I was trying to get back to it and I couldn't, because I don't even know who authorized and opened the meeting in the first place, because for a while it was just saying waiting. So I'm just guessing this is a huge fuck up on Zoom.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
So I actually have a backtracky kind of question. We're looking to do content that's not just necessarily about what we're internally doing, especially with everything going on. And I was wondering, in sort of a larger context, because we talked about this in the working group for comms, sharing stuff about what's going on now with all of the protests. And I don't remember if the thing was we're not going to stick our neck in that right now, or but there's also the well, if we're silent on it, then it looks kind of worse. But it was a bunch of white people in the chat. So I was wondering if we could get a little bit more diversely context people. Although actually no, wait, Gray, were you there? Or was that the comms meeting earlier that you weren't at?
I probably was not at it because I don't recall. I didn't have this conversation with anyone from HFM today.
Well,
yesterday.
You're talking about the comms meeting, Yenny?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm in the Blacks for Yang Facebook group. So I was reposting things that I found from their Facebook and from the Melanated Council of Yang Facebook. And that's the content that I posted into the social media channel to screen before we posted it on our Twitter. So
I've been away all day, so.
Okay.
That's resourceful and well thought of, Colleen. What is there any big points, or back to Yenny's original question? Did y'all want to talk about that, or maybe we go look at some of those posts right now and give them approval and just push them forward?
So I don't know if I saw all of the things Colleen posted. I'm in the Blacks for Yang Facebook page. And the one I saw from Colleen was about unsuspending. I didn't see anything specifically about like. I
Oh,
didn't.
yeah.
The comments
that-
were. Sorry.
Oh, that was a different one I just engaged with. I did not post that over to our thing.
Yeah. The comments that I saw and from that were about like him unsuspending, which I agree is like not the best option. And then when it comes to us making a statement, I don't know. I think that because we are still getting our footing on like how we communicate and even make statements about anything in general, I'd rather just like amplify voices that I think we can generally agree with, being Andrew, MLK3, and both of them had pretty good responses, as well as some like other politicians who've responded to it well.
I just wanted to also mention that this is open to like anyone who's in here, not
Okay.
just Gray.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gray. Didn't mean to cut into you.
It's cool. I personally dislike trying to process like big story. I mean, the cases from the last 2 weeks have been pretty black and white as far as like what happened with the murders, like for Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. Those were like pretty clearly like murders. But the reaction to the protests and stuff is not something that I've processed yet. And again, like a lot of times when news is in an emotional state, then it's hard to get full stories. So like for their cases, I don't think that that's as big of an issue, but as far as reacting to or being how we voice like our things on the protest is hard to, I think it's very hard to navigate space, and I'm cautious about those kind of things socially.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. If y'all don't mind, I'll just throw my 32 cents in for what it's worth. But getting to Gray's point, I think everyone agrees murder's pretty cut and dry, no doubt, horrific. Is there systematic racism inside of the structures of our government and police force? I think there's no doubt when you have 4 people who stand by and watch, murder happen in front of their eyes, because it can, no questions. The big question becomes the reaction to the protest, and there's plenty of very good points of when people protest peacefully, try to kneel for so many times, and that does not make it, and you have 3 boom, 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 black and white video cases of the issue still at hand, does rioting start to become a form of just protest? And I think there are a lot of strong arguments to be made, but on the flip side, there also is a bunch of strong arguments to be made, hurting people who are innocent and getting violent and lashing out at the closest thing to you isn't necessarily the productive or more grace mindset that we've sort of come to appreciate from the Humanity First movement. How do we understand people's frustration and anger and make the stories newsworthy long enough so we push for, like, the fact that there hasn't been 4 arrests is mind-boggling to me. There's the 1 arrest and murder 3 is pretty weak as this, but the fact that at this point after these protests there hasn't been 4 is, to me, is I maybe someone can enlighten me. I just don't understand. But to me that would be the justified people, or that's sort of the big point on the rioting. Until we get that rioting, I'm sympathetic to. But beyond that point, if those came down, I'm not sure how sympathetic I'd be to continue property destruction after that.
I think that it is a difference of how we personally feel and how we want as an organization to be saying things. We want to make sure we're not offending various people, and I think that that's really what I was trying to ask.
Okay,
Yeah. Like,
I have a Zoom hand up, and I just wanted to jump in with a comment. Like, one, I can see within our internal platforms, like, we can have a conversation about, like, I know one of the things that came up in diversity and inclusion was we had run across a very data-driven presentation that we're writing up to share that's kind of talking about a lot of the use of force policies and police union negotiated contracts that are impacting these situations and prevent and shield problem officers from accountability. So I think kind of like within the brand of the Yang Gang, or Humanity First movement, we're very data driven, but that's like an inside our network conversation, and the kind of sharing that information for our members to look at and then choose to do whatever they want to do with it. And separately, I think this is one of these circumstances where I could see our social medias like retweeting the content like Colleen was talking about, where it is people who are, I don't know, like, I don't really think our social media accounts should be writing content and sharing, but like resharing things or liking things, and really just being allies. And, you know, I don't know, like, I think we should not like put ourselves out there like as an organization in the front, but we can amplify other organizations, I would say.
I have some minor disagreements from that, but I want to hear other people's thoughts.
I do too. I think that saying nothing of our own volition is an issue. I think silence speaks volumes, and I don't want to give off the impression that we have no opinion.
But like what Colleen
yeah,
did, silence.
that's why. I mean, as it is, we don't tweet a lot, so to have, I think, 2 tweets in a day, that's our biggest. So yeah, we talked about this in the comms meeting. Are we going to tweet about SpaceX? And we're like, we definitely need to tweet like about, you know, the other things going on before and after we tweet about SpaceX, if we do at all. So I don't know. I had queued up about 3 in the tweet. I see 1 out now, but yeah, Kevin Lee has been on for that. So yeah, we're not silent. Check. We're not silent. You know, we don't have to worry about that occurring.
All right, Kiara had a hand up.
Well, I just wanted to say that based on a conversation that I'd had recently with Dwight Hunter from the Black Yang Gang, who is also associated with the Melanated Council of Yang since its inception, but just not like public facing. We had a discussion about what we think should be discussed specifically before this happened. And the point that he made was that it's not just about racism or police brutality or systems of oppression, but the larger point is really white supremacy. And we have to use those words specifically when we are discussing this situation. So I felt like it would be, I don't know, like in the interest of like the opinions that I've heard from other people, I just wanted to like voice that, like maybe something to think about. I know this is really touchy, but this is what I've heard from other people who are Black and in the Yang Gang.
It's interesting. I mean, you're the voice that matters most right now. So I'm not sure, you know, my thoughts, but at the same time, if we're building a unified movement, we do want to be able to speak to everyone. And I think this is the toughest time, right? This is time when unity is needed the most, but I think it's what makes it the hardest. I'm gonna have to think about that. I just know white supremacy is a triggering word to a lot of moderates. But at the same time, if that's something important, you know, we want to think about that. To Catherine's point, I think if we want to be taken seriously as thought leaders and as a unified movement, we need to have a voice and sort of an opinion when we can. You know, I get this, we're not superly as well formed and have a robust communications department and policy in the height of this crisis. And, you know, I get us maybe taking not too strict of a stance, but I think just in future, I would advocate for us being able to synthesize the, you know, comments of the people like, you know, MLK III, and other people as well with our sort of data-driven angle and approach, and synthesize something that we're proud of, that represents our identity and brand, but that gets to that unifying aspect of what makes us unique. I don't know, that's just my sort of my gut thought, but again, I'm gonna let other people speak. Haven't heard from Keith Lemon. Is it Lehman? Lemon? Or Elaine? Any one of y'all want to chat in? We need to be following the lead of
Did anyone else have any other questions? Because I mean, I think we're coming to a kind of natural stop of back and forth on it. So I think that having people come to the hang tomorrow, like Pim literally put in the chat, might be a good idea. We can really see what a wider group kind of thinks about it within some context.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I definitely agree that we need to do some kind of like data related stuff. Like if we could start just sharing info dumps about like just like simple infographic info dumps with like statistics in different areas or stuff like that, that might be where is that what you were trying to get to with it, Massey?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly, I think that's, at least personally, again, exactly the right approach, because I think what separates us, and again, this is just my straight white male perspective, but we get less wrapped up in the emotional hyperbole of other things, and we look at the data, and the data, that being said, is hyperbolic, right? And there are certain things like, you know, union tracks that are like, we strip away the rhetoric and we just look at the raw things that are going on that are systematic and structural injustices, and what is causing that. It's these things right here, and these things are the things that lead to these horrific emotionally driven videos. And to me, that gets and leads, this is what white supremacy looks like when it's written in law, right? These union contracts, these are those things that it's not labeled outright, but it's done with a wink and a nod.
I have a weird perspective angle for it. Like we're giving the Yang Gang and Humanity First movement something to share. And stuff that they would be like, if they just saw it from anyone, would be information that they would want to share.
I like that. I think that's really good. I'm gonna shut up now and let other people think, but I think that's a good brand, that it doesn't push us too much to try and be a point, but it gets to the raw facts.
If I can chime in, also remembering that we are trying to also uphold humanity first too. So whatever information we put out, that should be one of our guiding principles, I think.
100%. That's really well put too.
There's a piece of legislation that's in the House right now that some folks are challenging. The stuff that I've linked in the chat is that YouTube presentation is really worth watching, because it's a nice condensation of a lot of the data that has been gathered since the Ferguson protests over 5 years ago. And really this nice organization, Campaign Zero, they have built like a database of police, contracts and use of force, reports of, people killed by police. They have like a whole constellation of websites that are kind of supporting activism around renegotiating police contracts. So one of the things that's coming up in the House is a bill to allow all police in the whole country to be able to unionize. And like in the presentation, one of the stats that really jumped out at me was there was a case in Florida where because of a Florida Supreme Court decision, the sheriff's departments were finally able to unionize, whereas the police had been unionized for a while. And there was a 40% jump in reports of use of force and complaints from the community with sheriff's departments, but not policing. So there is this strong pushback of everyone in Congress should like put a pause on allowing more folks to, more police departments to unionize, because it is very tightly correlated with these policies that shield problematic officers from discipline. Like one of the tweets that I put in the chat was talking about this particular officer that everyone has seen the video of. Because they didn't put him on a 3-day paid suspension, the Minneapolis Police Department contract requires he get rehired. So, you know, it's just, you know, part of that presentation, it's about like an hour and a half long from the point where it starts at the 19-minute mark, but it is just solid data, like really giving everyone like a broad perspective. So I know we're in these conversations, but I'd really recommend people look at this and then kind of bring that to all the conversations that we're having about this.
That's amazing. That just stoked the idea in my head is this would be a great tool. You know, we have, you know, COVID callers, right? Where, you know, but a way we need to recruit more people into the volunteer aspect of our organization to do things. Is there a way in which we could do a round up volunteers into our Humanity First movement through like this sort of, whether it's getting them to push out this data of social media or making calls to Congress, advocating for, you know, a pausing, you know, if not outright stoppature of this bill along sort of with, you know, with the income movement. Is there any way we can leverage this, you know, newfound realization and awareness to these injustices and use this as a way to sort of grow our voice in a data-driven way? Just an idea that popped in my mind.
I don't know if this is necessarily like a leverage point for growth, but I think that this is an approach that we value and the people who organize with us value. And to Eileen's point earlier, like we can't be humanity first about this, but a lot of the proof in the pudding on the ties between white supremacy and like our police state are numeric, you know, and the ACLU has done a lot of groundwork on this over the last at least 4 to 10 years, looking into the numbers on how our prison system has disproportionately affected Black people, and that's definitely tied to police action and how that is played out. So I think there's a lot of data that we can mine through to show how some of these things are manifested like numerically, and then talk about some of the reforms we want in that based on what we see.
Yeah, it sounds like a great task force. Sort of Catherine was pointing out a task force of some sort, maybe like the Connect and Learn one to go put it in. Does anyone want to sort of sponsor and take ownership of it?
Yara has been leading that, and she actually, it's a presentation that she's going to do where she really is advising people that when they make these connections with communities, it's a very slow relationship building process. So for the ADOS project that she did, she has built a lot of these relationships already. So I'll just let Kiara say whatever she wants to say about that.
So yeah, just like Catherine said, I've basically sort of embodied, I guess you could really say it's similar to a political director role where I'm reaching out to people, but not necessarily just trying to inundate them with all this information about what we're doing. You have to initiate trust. Most people's first question when I'm reaching out to them is, who are you? What is Humanity First Movement? What is its connection to Humanity Forward and Andrew Yang? And then once we break that down over the course of a few days or even sometimes weeks, people are willing to initiate the conversation with me. I messaged in the chat a little bit ago that I have reached out to a couple of the members of the Melanated Council of Yang. But to be completely honest with you, I have no idea how or if that is going to pan out, because there is a little bit of a power struggle going on currently. I don't want to get into too much detail about that, but it's been really, really hard for me to gain any sort of like footing or standing within that specific group of people. And I don't really know exactly why that is. People, like, I hear like hearsay. I don't know. I'm trying my best. I would really like to get into contact with them. I was really excited when I saw they were getting their YouTube channel started and having these really great discussions. They have one coming up with Jermaine Johnson on the 2nd. I'm hoping that one of the two that I've reached out to will get back to me, and then I can bring them into the discussion, because not all the Blacks for Yang are affiliated with Melanated Council of Yang. That's a very small group, specifically of largely influencers. So it's just taking a bit of time.
It might be. Oh, sorry.
Kira, I just want to say on the Melanated Council of Yang, I know that one of the members on there is actually a guy from the Boston area who me, Yenny, and Catherine have volunteered, or I've talked to quite frequently, and is in part of our community. So I can reach out to him and see if I can get you some updates there.
That would be amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you afterwards to figure out like what specifically you want, but he's someone who I talk to probably like weekly.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yay, solving blockers.
Awesome. Yeah. That's how it works, right? That's theory and practice.
But the nice thing is, like, these groups are, you know, these individuals are communicating on their own public social media. So if we can kind of do a pull-in of the stuff, especially like the data-driven stuff that they are sharing, then we can kind of send that throughout our networks and just make sure we're kind of learning and finding, you know, a good, you know, because this kind of thing keeps happening over and over and over again. And like, this is the whole history of our country. So, you know, how do we break these deadlocks and, you know, be part of, you know, not having this recycle itself again 4 or 5 years later? Because this isn't just about, you know, the protests. This is like the things that led up to it, all the structural problems.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we have some specific stuff that we can do, because that is what I care about. It is like 9 o'clock, so, or 10 o'clock. So I'm gonna log off, but I'll follow up with Kiara on that thing, and then Catherine, thanks for all the links. I'm gonna read through some of that.
Oh my God. Watch that YouTube presentation. It is so well sourced, and I'm like Kiara and I are writing this thing to basically be like, Yang, like all of the candidates that we know, we're like giving them this briefing because we're like, have this context. So
yeah, another thing that I wanted to share with you guys, as far as like some solutions oriented stuff that I picked up this week, or like in the last day or two. I haven't gotten a process through it, but I found a document for, shoot, and I do want to share it with you so you can read it. I might have it open up my laptop. But anyway, the Camden, New Jersey Police Department had an awful like policing system, and they essentially, I think they fired, not permanently, but fired like all of their officers, and built a program based on de-escalation as the perspective on their use of force policy, and then had strict like rules about use of force. So not just like when someone dies and it blows up, but like any violation of like use of force on their based on their policy was like punished. And I found essentially the write-up on what that policy looks like for them, and that seemed like a model to be, you know, used going forward. And I'm in the process of trying to read through it. I don't know where it's at. I will share it with people later. But that was at least a solution that seemed viable, and wanted to go forward.
A subgroup of diversity and inclusion for us to kind of, you know, bring all of this research that everyone is doing. Yeah. So I'll post that.
Cool.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like a good task force to go, you know, we have a moment in a change in which clearly the White House has abdicated leadership of any sort of unifying kind, right? And
Yeah.
so it's time other people step up and be the voices of, rationale, sane, and unity, and, to try to come up with something that has less violence overall.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think that some specific outcomes, I mean, like outside of obviously the firing of the officers responsible, but like some systematic outcomes that stop this kind of behavior from repeating is going to be something we can contribute to through like research and like reading. So
yeah, I mean, I've just had a quick vision in my head of imagine all the protesters with signs, like cancel HR, whatever, House bill, with that, like that's like right now there's, it's fighting the cops, but it's, if we could get this voice and amplify it, I could see this, going viral pretty quickly if we were able to attach this, frustration to something concrete.
yeah. Yep.
Me, it seems like one of the most important things is to learn all the organizations that have good structural solutions. So just kind of like scouring Twitter, looking for that, and then kind of pull in all of their solutions so that, like, as for the Humanity First movement folks that are involved in protests, like they can start reflecting those messages and those pushes.
Yeah, that's been my thought on it as well. So that's where I've been trying to focus my energy. But like I said, I gotta get out of here.
I can sense you're drained. Go take it easy, man.
Yeah. All right. You have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye.
I guess one of the other conversations is like the advice for protesting, where, not everyone can stay out on the street continuously. So you see some movements where they start to have cycle protesting, where they come out like this protest, is going to evolve the way that it does. But, this is something that will probably take months and months to get the kinds of structural changes that consistently need to be done. So just getting ready for that kind of consistent push. And, it's terrible that something like this has to happen, but I think it's kind of opened up and the entire country is looking and watching. So the same way, like the kind of COVID economic lockup was like, okay, we're now looking at a whole bunch of new things that nobody was even considering an emergency, but this has always been an emergency. But now it's like the whole country is seeing it like, this is an emergency. What needs to be done? What is happening? So
I think white people stuff now. Oh shit.
No,
right.
That's the unfortunate thing. Like,
yeah.
African Americans is such a small percentage of the population that, mostly a lot of white people can just like tune out these problems and then gets mad when, people are kneeling at football things like, I don't want to think about this. And it's like, too bad, this is our responsibility as citizens to, really think about structurally, these problems.
All right, well, sorry, go ahead.
I could even see this evolving the same way there's a COVID-19 impact and response kind of external volunteering channel that, after we kind of gather this research internally, we could, be doing the whipping like Income Movement is doing. Maybe it's not even us, but we find like a good partner organization or, whatever it turns into, where Income Movement is having these like, several times a week update calls like, all right, let's do this next. Let's do this next. What's the next thing? What's the next point of pressure? I could even see kind of pushing that into our external volunteering call.
Yeah, great thoughts. I'll be able to start make some of these meetings. I want to get org struct stuff done so I can start doing external stuff. I'm getting a little burnt out on it. But I think we're at the light at the end of the tunnel, so feeling good on that end. I think.
Sorry, do you mind if I bring something up?
Sure.
So I hope it's not inappropriate at like this point, but since Kiara had said she had reached out to the organization, or when she reaches out to people, you know, the first question is what's the connection between Humanity First movement and Humanity Forward, and et cetera. And that's the third time today that I've heard something like that. And I just, before this was at the Georgia meeting, and we had gone to pick up trash. The riots were pretty bad in Atlanta, and so we had gone out and picked up trash, and people brought Humanity First signs.
That's awesome.
And well, yeah, it was awesome, and people actually sort of took it the wrong way and like sort of interpreted it as a like all lives matter things. And I could definitely see how they could do that. And then another person today was like, oh, are y'all like a knockoff Humanity Forward? So I don't know. I just, since that was the third thing today that kind of came up with like the name, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I've had that issue come up as well multiple times, reaching out to people. And it takes more convincing and more work. And you know, I would be lying if I, you know, said that Humanity First movement was my first choice, but at the same time, I want to respect sort of the quote unquote the will of people. That being said, from a practicality standpoint, I think a lot of people who voted maybe didn't have an understanding of the impediment it causes our org and our volunteers. So that's something I wouldn't necessarily be against reviving. Just now, because I'm glad you're saying it too, because I've had the conversation maybe 3 times in the past week.
Okay, good. I was like really nervous to bring that up because it's like backpedaling, but it's like if we get too far with the name and then we regret it, I just think, you know, it's worth bringing up. And I will say another thing. So Atlanta has there's like a legal graffiti section, and it's like a really popular place. And I made a stencil for Humanity Forward like the day that Yang announced it. And I was walking by with the stencil, and a business owner who is like on the border of the legal graffiti was like, hey, that says Humanity Forward, come. He let me graffiti it on his restaurant, and he didn't know what it was. Like, he just liked the name so much. So just had to tell y'all that. I can send you a picture.
I would love that. I don't know, Catherine, do you have any thoughts? And not to ignore y'all just being, you know, someone else on the board, but honestly, I want everyone's thoughts here on Humanity Forward.
I think whatever our name is, until we're like a clear organization that does something that the public can see, there's always going to be this question. And, you know, like there may be a time in the future where, you know, we revisit and become like Humanity Forward movement, or, you know, maybe we stay Humanity First movement. And, you know, I think like in some ways, because, you know, there is this thing, especially when I saw like the thing like, oh, people are going up and like cleaning up after protests. Like I could see why people are like, is this some law and order supporting thing? Like, oh, these bad people who are protesting, destroying these neighborhoods. So what might be interesting is, you remember how like during Pride, there was like this, you know, all this like rainbow themed like Yang 2020. It might be interesting to have HMF kind of branding, kind of find something that combines, I don't know, that kind of supports
BLM, HMF plus BLM or something like that.
I don't know what it would be, but like just something where it's just like, I don't think we should take on another organization because they haven't given us permission to use their names, but like something which says like, you know, enough's enough, or ya basta, or, you know, like whatever the, you know, whatever phrases would kind of say like we're clearly in partnership with
Yeah, I think that comes out to the comms, like partnerships, and something I want to talk to you about some other time, Kiara, is, but like a lot of what you're doing, I think, is laying the foundation work for the comms coalition, relationship management, and building those relationships with the people who that become the larger coalition. And yeah, I definitely agree. Part of that needs to be, getting alongside and finding where one of the things I was super excited and I tried to do best justify in the other, Sunday call meeting is talking about, because I went through all your slides and your last two agendas and the diversity inclusion outreach poster to try to get an understanding. I had some talk with Catherine a long night other day and sort of get an idea of what y'all are working on. And the idea of that, using, taking one, we're getting a nice post-mortem and understanding of what we did good and bad as a campaign, but then not just okay, thanks for the thoughts, catch you later, but okay, now we have a relationship and a working relationship, let's use that to build and grow and dive deeper into the communities. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to build these relationships with BLM and other sort of tangential things where there's quite a lot of overlap, right? Blacks are part of humanity, and by pushing blacks forward, we are pushing humanity forward, right? I think that very much really falls into line. It's part of that coalition building. So I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to kill two birds with one stone, and pushing humanity forward and growing our organization. Just some thoughts there.
Hey, Faye, nice to see you.
Hey.
It's funny. I feel like we were having a conversation at one point that was talking about, folks feeling like, kind of wondering what this movement was about, listening to Yang kind of be like, oh, Biden telling, African Americans, you're not Black if you don't know who you're voting for already. And you basically being like, oh, this will die down in a day or two, to, I feel like, I don't know. I don't think we're in the conversation about, is this movement sidelining, African Americans and others who are disproportionately impacted by police violence. So it's sad that it had to take an incident like this to kind of wake the whole country up. But we now have an opportunity to do something we haven't done for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could really take this terrible, horrible moment and, be part of forcing something different to happen. And that's what's so impressive about that YouTube video is, after Ferguson, one of the comments they made in there, they were just like, wow, the US government tracks the rainfall in Missouri over the last 100 years, but there's no clear tracking of police use of violence. And then they spent basically 5 years making these databases, and they're not the only one. There's other parallel projects as well. And now there is data, and there are, clear things that can be drawn out of the data. And you also see over Twitter, people talk about how local politicians are afraid of the police departments and the police unions. And, there is this opportunity for people to speak openly about that rather than just feeling like, oh, I don't know, it's just, I don't know. I'll stop there, but.
Yeah, arming people with data is really important. That's what was my favorite part of the campaign, and we should continue to do that. And I'm actually okay at making graphics, so if anyone sends me data points, I can make a bunch for us to use on social media and stuff.
Yeah, sorry, my brain totally zonked. I was reading Faye's statement about the Texas State Demo. When you say ours, so is this a Democratic convention or is this the Yang Gangs convention?
Texas.
Democrat?
Oh, hi.
$dollars on the state committee.
Say that again? Sorry, you cut out for a second, Kat.
Oh no, I'm going to let Faye talk about it. Texas had a big success kind of getting UBI and democracy dollars up for consideration by Texas Democrats.
That's cool. Yeah, I was part of the writing of the resolutions because we submitted them all across the state. I think Hexel, Colorado was really instrumental in getting that done. I don't know who else was really involved, but I know that we submitted over 15% of the districts. And I have to go back and check and see exactly how many counties we were able to submit solutions in. There were 4 resolutions that we submitted all across the state, and I submitted one extra one that was for the American scorecard type of thing. But I think I put it as Texas scorecard because they didn't really understand how it's supposed to work. We're submitting it to county and then it goes to state, and the state is where most of that happens. And then I suppose it should be sent on to the national, right, from all the different states. So I'm not sure what all is supposed to happen. And that I was running to go to the national convention, which is a 3-day. I lost my race, but I might still be able to go. It's a non-zero chance. I'm not my breath. But as an at-large candidate, what they do is they try to fill up the party with people who are representative of human beings in our state. And so just the fact that I'm Asian and female might give me a chance to go. I don't know. So
I hope you get to go.
Same.
I'd like to go just so I can bring all the information back to everyone, because there's a lot more stuff to do, committees that are working groups. And those are things that, are not, they're kind of opaque, unless you've actually gone and to find out all of these things. So we have another person who's going to national get in my district. I really like her. She's not Yang Gang, but I asked her already if she would come and podcast with me or talk to people about what happens at the national convention. So I'll still be able to fulfill my purpose through her. So that's what delegates are for, right?
Hey, Faye, who are the other state leads in Texas besides Hexel?
Down in Houston, it was, I want to say Jen and her husband, David. Jen and David Miller. I don't know who was in Austin. So I've met people in Houston, and is it Agnew or Miller? I think David Miller and Jen Agnew. I'm not sure.
And they're still active?
No, they're in Houston.
Oh, they're in Houston, but
Yeah,
they're
they're in Houston. I don't actually know because they kicked me out of their group. So there was a little bit of drama. They kicked me out of the group. We had told people that they're about super PACs. Apparently, super PACs are not we weren't allowed to talk about them anywhere.
Okay.
But now that's not an issue. So we don't get along. I still have them as Facebook friends and stuff. I just haven't checked in on them
Okay. Yeah, so the last update that Hexel gave us was that Texas, to get on the state convention, so to guarantee a vote at the state convention on the submission, they need 15 districts to put it forward. And so UBI had 22 Senate districts putting it forward, Democracy Dollars had 20 Senate districts putting it forward, and Ranked Choice Voting had 18 Senate districts. And that 105 out of 377 submissions for the state convention were from Yang Gang. So
yeah, that's great. I'm glad you have the information there. That's so cool.
I know you guys are kicking butt down in Texas.
I'm Texas. I feel like I should be more involved on the Texas level. Is there anything I can do to help, or is it kind of late?
Oh no, it's late. You know what? There's always to do.
What?
There's a lot of people, there's a lot of races still going on, and the convention is happening. If you're not a delegate here, you can still attend any of the events because it's all virtual.
Okay.
So if you're interested in just seeing anything, you go to texasdemocraticconvention.com. It's really long. But
okay, is there anything I don't want to take everyone's group time here, but if there's anything important that you think that would be most helpful in having, my voice or perspective chime in, is there any specific place within there, whether it's Humanity for Texas or the Texas Democratic Convention, that I should check out?
Well, there's a lot of different caucuses going on, and there's a lot of trainings going on. So if you are interested in like running as a candidate, something like that, there's trainings for all these different things. And this is somewhere. I'd like to send you that information later. Do you have your like a? Are we Facebook friends or anything or?
I'm not sure, but I can add you. You can also hit me up on Slack. But
I know. Slack is so intimidating. Can you hit me up on Slack and then I'll find you that way?
Sure,
I'll say, oh,
sounds
there's
good.
a message from Massey. Okay.
Yeah,
Right. And then I'll just give you the information that's going on. Like they're going to be picking the national delegates, the at-large delegates, and their meeting might be online. So this year we can peek into how they do all of the things. I got to watch them making the platform here. I didn't watch the part with UBI, but I was told they actually did put UBI in Texas, like
awesome.
Like what Catherine said.
So it's wait. So that means it's officially on the Texas platform UBI.
It's going to be in the Texas platform, is what I heard.
That's so exciting.
It's up for a vote.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Never mind. See, I never
Way to
quite.
get me hype up like that.
I'm still trying to figure things out.
But at least it's up for a vote. That means people have to talk about it. People have to come on, onto a stance. And I'm really hoping Texas, being a very purple state, that that it's going to be a really way good talking point to let's go this is a way to turn it even bluer.
It's been a difficult just getting people to figure out how to vote and how to find their ballots and their how to find the convention events. I mean, it's been, the virtual convention has been really hard for people in the rural areas. Plus, a lot of them have to go to a McDonald's to get proper internet, or they have to sit, they have to go out to a public internet place, and there's nowhere to actually sit in the places during the coronavirus. So
oh, sure.
It's a mess.
I'm not sure if this. I was thinking it might be the opposite. That it might be more accessible for people who are far away to go meet for a statewide convention, but I could see it being challenging as well.
There's some of each. We had four different counties that had nobody voting on any of the issues. Like at the beginning, the first ballot, there were 4 counties where nobody voted. There were 2 counties where one person voted that I saw, and the one person got a weighted vote of 14 delegates. So there should have been 14 delegates voting in that county, and they only had 1. So that one person got 14 votes. And then the other county, one person got 12 votes.
See, that's where if we see, that's where we need to be organized and be better connected on this stuff, so we can go reach out and be like, hey, at least now we know if there's other states having their conventions, we need to get on that right now and be like, hey, there's gonna be probably a lot of counties that aren't fully represented. So go find anyone vaguely Yang Gang and just be like, get you on your county seat for the the DNC. And
honestly, I'm all alone yanking out here. So there's really not a lot of people. Even you can't even find a Democrat. They couldn't find a single Democrat to vote as a delegate for 4 different counties. It's really difficult to what I need is for the big city people, the young people, to come out to us, because every single event that happens, every political event happens in the big city. So all the rural people that participate, we're always traveling, and nobody comes out to us. So it feels like we feel very neglected because nobody ever comes. And then, hard to project yourself and your stuff important. Ever, you guys. Okay, let me mute.
That's tough. I mean, my biggest takeaway is we gotta go find when other states are having their DNC conventions. Texas, it's a learning example. But if we could go, we could possibly get UBI on these things just out of sheer, just people, just because we went and put in the elbow grease. And if it's done democratically, hey, we can go find anyone from any county and show, yang someone, or if they're not yanged already, and get them in. I don't know. That's so exciting, but I feel like I already have so much on my plate.
I know, but I would like to invite, as the year goes on, it's still, there's still a whole road to November. Would like to get more young people interested in politics and create the pipeline to leadership, because Nobody knows how to run for office. Nobody knows all the different offices and all the different positions that are not even real offices, just, just workers. Imagine you have to run to just go to the working group to work on stuff. So there's a lot to do. So during this time, I would love to invite more people from the city to come out to us and just to show, what political engagement is like for young, because we actually have 2 generations missing in politics.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm gonna have to sign off. It's been a long day of meetings, productive, but a long one. And I got an early morning flight tomorrow and I need to prep for that. But it's been great chatting with you. I love you all. I'm sure I'll see y'all soon in one form or the other.
All right.
Cheers.
Night.
Good night. So what was the meeting like today? I missed it.
There was some weird thing that happened with Zoom where the meeting got split into separate rooms. So Massey was like in a totally separate meeting from us, and then we were in a separate meeting. So we ran 2 meetings at least. And and then, we at the end just started kind of talking about like everything that's going on right now, and what should the Humanity First movement, like what should be our public position. So we've just so far have been kind of Colleen has been retweeting stuff from Melanated Council of Yang and other kind of organizations within our network, and then we're opening up a channel in the Slack to like quickly pull in just kind of looking at what are the structural data driven suggestions, because this stuff is like systemic and happens over and over and over again, and like communities already know the solution. So you know what I mean? Like we just need to find that. So we had been talking about this Campaign Zero, which is just one, and there's probably others, but they had a just super comprehensive presentation that they did for Portland, Oregon City Council when they were getting to ready to renegotiate their police union contract, and that was back in October of last year. But just everything that they are talking about in that, it's just the stuff that let me go up in the chat and find it. But I just had recommended
Campaign Zero. Okay.
Yeah, but there's a presentation, let me go find the video, that it is 1000% worth, watching. It's about an hour and a half. It starts at the 19-minute mark in this YouTube video that I'm reposting now.
We can end police violence in America. All right. So I'm trying to trend a hashtag. Can't really do it by myself, but anyway, I'm trying to tell people about an idea that I have, and I'm using Nerf the government. Okay, so basically, hi Lehman. Is that how your name? Lehman.
Lamon.
Lamon. Lamon, are you male or female?
Female.
Okay, great. So you're in Atlanta.
Yep. Our primaries are still going on, and yeah.
So I had asked who was Republican, was this happening for them, or is it just the Democrats? And it seems like it's happening all over the country. That Republicans are also not really joining. Like there's fewer of people. Just generations are not interested in politics at all.
Yeah. Had y'all heard of the Generator Collective? Does that ring a bell to anyone? So I had the last like event. Okay, yeah. So it's Alana from Broad City, and she started this nonprofit called Generator Collective, and basically they were like going around to all the early voting states and doing like raves, but it was like every 20 minutes there would be like a activist or political candidate like giving like basically like voter information and stuff like that, like happenings in your city. And I was like, wow, there's never been anything like making it fun. And so I went to that, and it was like the last event that we did as Yang Gang in Atlanta before like the quarantine started. But that was really cool to see so many young people engaged, like making it fun. I don't know. I feel like that's how it has to be, like for millennials and younger, I don't know, to get people involved, because like voting's so boring.
Zephyr, I want more ice. Can you get me 3 more ice?
But it's, yeah, anyway.
So that sounds really interesting. Did you just put this link? Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. These are from Catherine.
Yeah, I just put these links up. It's just related to, you were saying like you were looking on social media, and like there was some stuff you wanted to retweet. So I was just recommending this guy because he has some really, he's connected. He's one of the co-founders of Campaign Zero. So he has some really nice tweet threads that provide a lot of information.
Thank you very much. See, the reason I want to trend the nerf the government is I feel like the solution is to stop buying like tools of violence for the police people. You know, like we give them all this training and we give them tools, and every tool that you look at in their toolbox is do something violent back, you know, stop people. And so like their purpose is to stop people from protesting. But the real purpose that they should be engaged in is listening to the people when they have grievances and helping them to amplify their voice so that they're on the same side. So the nerf the government is about like basically don't buy them more guns and riot gear with tear gas and all this other stuff that they're going to, I mean, if you give them those toys, they're just going to go out and use them. And they'll be like, wow, we haven't gotten to use them. We've owned them for a year, you know, or 2 years or 10 years or whatever since the last riot. Get all excited about using it. And, you know, it's frustrating, and it's not supposed to be, you know, that's not supposed to be what the police are about. They're supposed to bring people in to actually listen to what the crowd has to say, write down all the information, and take it back up to who listen to these people, you know? That's what I feel like.
That YouTube presentation is very interesting because they talk about how the police contracts and the use of force policies, you know, really—
The police track there? Okay.
They really kind of lock in what the cities can and can't do. Like San Antonio, Texas was one of the cities that they pointed out, and they said that, you know, on average only 0.02% of police are ever fired. But in San Antonio, because there's language in the contract that says like any discipline goes to an arbiter, and that arbiter has the final say, that 70% of the police that get fired off the San Antonio Police Department are rehired. So you just think how extraordinary it is to fire a police officer, but then 70% of those for whom there was like that much, you know, evidence, information, problem, that the arbiter, which the entire elected body, the police chief, nobody can overrule that arbiter. It's final. So, and I also spent a lot of time talking about Austin, that Austin had a great negotiation where they were able, I guess there had been some incident there where a video had come out, and the Austin contract used to have language that said unless I can't remember if it's 150 days or 160 days, that if the investigation isn't completed within that time frame, by the time, you know, from the time of the incident to the completion of the investigation, no discipline can be, the officer can receive no discipline. And so a video of this officer, you know, mistreating an African-American woman came out after that deadline. So, you know, there was a lot of protest around that. And then the kind of movement working on this in Austin kind of got the city council to reject the police contract that had been newly negotiated, go back to the table, and the police union was like, yeah, that provision's kind of undefensible, and they let that go. So yeah, that presentation, I mean, one of the things that's kind of very timely is one of the sections of the presentation. He was talking about how there was like a natural experiment where in Florida, the Supreme Court decided that sheriff's departments should be able to unionize, where previously sheriff's departments had not been able to, but police departments could. And so then they had this natural experiment over like a several year process that compared to the police, there was like a 40% uptick in reports of misconduct and use of force policy problems with sheriff's departments that had newly unionized. So it's kind of creating this tight link that when you have these kind of collective bargaining agreements that undermine the ability of the police chief or the city to hold problematic officers accountable, you know, the use of force kind of skyrockets because the quote unquote bad apples aren't removed. And that is another part of the presentation where they talk about how there's like a lot of policies in police contracts that have records destroyed or made unusable for discipline. And there was actually one of the tweets that I linked. He was like, oh, well, in Minneapolis, the police contract requires that, you know, people be put on administrative, you know, leave for, I can't remember, it's 3 or 5 days. And he's like, so per this contract, this officer that we're all looking at in the video, he will have to be rehired. And that was the other thing too. Another one of the tweets is that particular officer, there are like 12 complaints about him in the past that were not sustained, but because of a particular policy or contract provision, the public cannot know what that information or what those incidents were. So, I mean, that was like a big part of it was, you know, that when you are able to, like, there was a big Chicago database that was made through a FOIA request that took several years to get out of the Chicago Police Department. And then they kind of had a really amazing data set of their kind of internal records that had to be published and shared that they made this database of. And in looking at that, they were able to map that there are certain, you know, there's a certain core of officers who are problems. And then other officers don't want to work with them. So the good officers kind of stay away from them, but then they start influencing newer officers. And so they end up building this cluster of people with very problematic behaviors. And they're, you know, because of these contract policies or these contract provisions, they're not able to flush these people out of the system or kind of even, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I highly, highly, highly recommend watching that YouTube video and sharing it with people because it's so informative, you know, and I don't know, we're looking for more. There's more organizations doing this. So that's kind of the big research project we're undertaking right now.
The video that you're talking about, is that the one with the city council work session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically,
so I have that on the YouTube. So if we close this, I'll be able to watch. Yeah. I know that everybody is very concerned about accountability and that's where the focus is. That's what most people are talking about. But I'm talking about something a little bit different, like you were saying. It's not just, I feel like accountability after these events is too late. I want, and then the accountability is problematic because then they have to, it's like, what do you do with these people you've already trained, you know, and then they don't have any other skills. And they still want to be police officers, you know, and then they go back and just apply somewhere else. You know, what if they just move out of state and go to another state? I don't know. I mean, it's just like, there's just, the problem is, and then telling people to not be racist is not working. We've already been doing that for a long time, you know, and it's like, I feel like what we need to do is just start at the beginning. If I'm on a diet, I just don't go out and buy a lot of cookies in the pantry, you know? And if they are going to be overly violent, what we need to do is just not give them those guns and the tear gas and all that stuff. We need to give them some other, so is the taco truck revolution. You buy taco trucks. Okay, so when there's a riot, you buy taco trucks and walk. That's shows that you're there to feed people. Nobody's going to riot for that. You know, and then second, you give them things like cheerleaders with megaphones. You know, they come out, they're pleasant. They ask, what do people want to chant? We chant it with you. You know, and then third, you just send them a lot of pencil pushers, and those people need to get in the crowd with their clipboards, right? And you write down everything that they're feeling and thinking, and what kind of solutions they want, what kind of problems they're coming up against. And then somebody has to organize that information later and send it to the right people. Like, this is information that the mayor needs because this is his, his area. This is what the police chief needs to hear. This is what the leader hear. Maybe this needs to go to the federal level. But see, like, human beings don't know how to handle our government anymore. We don't have a way to communicate. And we've had that problem here with Yang Gang, with the grassroots, not being able to communicate up to the campaign, partly because of all the expenditures in the past, or, like the media people don't talk to these people, they don't talk to the other people. Like, communication's really off. And I feel like that's what's going on in our country, is that we know how to get the country to react to us. So the only way we know is we go out on the street, we be angry in the street, but what are our demands, right? Who is the leader of the demands? And there should be a leader. So it should just be like, people should be able to give their information somewhere and feel like we're being heard, right? So if you have like just politicians standing up front, the politician always stands up and says, I'm representing everybody, right? I'm going to represent the people in my district. And it's like a bottleneck of information. It's like that person is God of our region, and we send our prayers to this one person, and the one person has to sort it out and represent all of it. It doesn't make sense. So I'm looking for like more responsive government. I saw a really cool, one of our projects is going on is, it's a Yang Gang project. It was some sort of initiative portal. Have you heard of that one?
A portal?
Yeah, like some sort, it's a government portal, like when you like sign up for services. There's a government portal initiative. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I saw Travis posted a mock-up of that because we've been talking about the American Scorecard or a Citizens Dashboard, and I saw like a Figma kind of mock-up that he had shared.
I saw somebody like there was a poll or something you could get in. I tried to sign up for it because I'm like, that's what I want. I want to be working on how can the government and the bureaucracy respond to human beings at like real time, not like we get upset and then it takes some years and gridlock and then maybe something gets passed. Like, how do we get more responsive government? And so I was really interested, but when I clicked into the poll, it was already done. Like, they had already had 2 people reply, so it wouldn't take any additional inputs. And then I didn't know where it. I thought maybe it was here on Slack, but it isn't. I don't know where it is. So
you know what that probably was like the mission and vision.
Is it?
Yeah, because I saw that there was a poll that was. Let's see, what were they looking for? They were looking for. Oh no, this probably isn't it. There was something like it where it was like a data-driven government. Is that?
Maybe, yeah. But it was about some sort of government portal.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you find
government portal initiative or something, but I didn't see anything in Slack on.
Yeah, I mean, if you find the link, share it with us. We'd be curious.
I saw it on Twitter first. I don't know if there's anywhere I can find. Let me see if I can do the
Hi, Lamon.
search.
Thanks for hanging in there. And yeah, it would be very interesting to hear how, it's really cool that the Georgia Yang Gangs are in action there, and just, whatever feedback you guys have based on your experience. I know we're taking next week off, but we might, like, at the next meeting kind of reconvene and just see if any of the regions want to share their experience about attending these, just their experience being out and about and what they learned from it.
I might be able to come in next Sunday. I might be too tired. I should be, the convention should be over. So it's going to be 6 days starting tomorrow. Ooh. And there are a lot of there's events happening starting from 9 o'clock in the morning all the way to 9 o'clock at night. So there's all kinds of things to do. And I can't actually attend that many things with Zephyr around. So see how
Yeah, sounds good, Catherine. And I guess taking the week off will give me an opportunity to, or the bandwidth to join some other working groups, because yeah, there's so much going on. But yeah.
Is everyone taking a week off?
Not all of them, but I know several working groups were taking next week off.
Oh, okay. So I'm not going to be missing that much this week.
Exactly. So if next Sunday, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Since Lemon just left, who Kiara? I haven't heard from you today.
Hello, Faye.
Hi, you're in Tennessee, it says.
I sure am. I'm in Nashville. I've been here for about 6 years. I love listening to you talk about your state convention. It gives me lots of feels because I almost ran as a delegate for Andrew here in Davidson County, where Nashville is, and
wow,
I'm excited about like the whole like election process and how much fun that is. But it's intense too, so I like hearing you like take it a step further and like really get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm excited to see what you bring back.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go to this convention. I won't be going to the national so far as I know, but there's never, might be a chance. And there's this other lady who's going to, like talk to me about it afterwards. And so I'm going to try to get information. It's going to be her first time, so she'll probably have those, that types of first time impressions, which was pretty what I would bring. So.
That's awesome, especially for the state convention. I didn't get to go to ours. The COVID stuff like jumbled everything up here around the same time that everything pretty much got started. So it's really cool that you guys were able to like figure that out and that you're still able to have.
It's like, okay, so that's the thing I've noticed is that whenever there's any sort of mix up, only people who are connected can figure out how to do things.
Yes.
That's really a huge barrier.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So, yeah, like happen to be to a couple of people who are trying to keep me in the loop. If that hadn't, I would be in trouble already. And this year they actually opened access to more delegates. So anybody who said they wanted to be a delegate could be one. But sorry. Can you tell me a little bit later about to closing? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I forgot what I'm saying. Stuff around. Okay. So I was trying to say I think so the media, they actually allowed more people to be delegates this year than usual because like why do we need to limit it if we don't have to be in a we don't have to make enough space for everybody, so just let everybody do it. But then they kept each Senate district had a particular number of votes they were allowed to have. So they just apportioned the votes according to how many. If you had like 9 delegate votes and you had 5 people show up, each of you would get 1.8 votes or something. But if you had 4 delegate votes but 8 people showed up, then you each get half a vote. I don't know if that's true in all the time. It might be true all the time because sometimes they just can't find enough people to take all the votes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's been kind of interesting, and now this year you can actually watch all events online. So that's probably happening in Tennessee. I don't know. I don't know how are all the states running it the same way or differently. It's complicated.
Differently, I think everyone's figuring it out.
What was Massachusetts like? When is it happening for you?
Our state convention is in September. So
September. Wow. That's such a difference in timing.
It's really sneaky. It's like very low turnout because they yeah. Or hold on, I'm getting it wrong. That's like when our primary is. Our primary for our
Hi Kiara. Hope I can meet you again next time. Okay, bye.
We'll talk more. I'm gonna meet with Nicholas really quick so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. I'm just gonna get it out of my way really quick.
Okay, go do your meeting.
Oh my
Thanks,
gosh,
y'all.
going to a meeting.
I know.
Meetings.
I know, but it's okay. I kind of love it with y'all.
I'm really excited for this channel we're opening and the work that's about to get done.
Oh, I know. The floodgates are opening. I'm excited.
I know it's a sad occasion, but we were just having this whole conversation about how you just felt like the rest of this movement was not paying any freaking attention. And well, ugh.
Yeah, that's totally changing and evolving really, really quickly. Even I'm like not capable of keeping on. My head's like swiveling around trying to keep up. But I'm excited. This is what I'm.
And just like, you know, that we can't let this moment pass.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
Like, we don't want this happening again to some other people over the next couple of years when it doesn't have the full, you know, and that's actually, I was reading someone's they reposted an article that
hold over the computer.
They were talking about, you know, in defense of riots was the title of the article.
I feel like I've read that. That sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
Was it the poor people in defense of riots, or just in defense of riots?
It was the title of an article they wrote several years ago called In Defense of Riots.
Okay.
And the point being, like, everyone spends all this time being like, protesters should be nonviolent and this, that, the other. And it's like, and everybody ignores them. It's like, it's not until you cause damage that the media is like right there. So it's not saying like it's good or bad, but like you just have to recognize that, you know, pain and suffering and injustice is ignored unless it inconveniences power.
Yeah, but then also when we try to fight back, then it's like it's kind of like how I feel like the government is the brain and the anarchy is sort of your day process. And so like when the brain tells you to stop breathing, right? You're like, try not to breathe, but then eventually your body's like, no, I'm gonna, you know, you will pass out first and I will breathe, you know. So it's kind of like in terms of what's happening with all this stuff going on with the rioting and stuff. I feel like if there was a pathway for all of your cells to tell you what they need, right, you would like to respond to it. But when it feels like you're, like if your autoimmune system acting up or something like that and it was making you sick, then it's going to fight you back. Because the brain is trying to fix the illness, but they don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I kind of think of it like a biological organ. It's hard for the brain to think of cells as being important. Like, you know, it can't actually, there's no way for it to comprehend.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read that article you just shared. That's cool.
I thought that was the one you were talking about, but if you have a different one, I'll read that one too.
I can't find it right now.
All those.
I'm looking for it.
Oh,
but yeah, I'd say
I'm gonna hit that one too.
I'd say watch that YouTube presentation, because that presentation is so tight. Like they are just like bang, 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 bang. Like just, you know,
the city council. Okay.
Yeah, that city council presentation is just so masterfully laid out. Very like, okay, this is what we're doing. You know, this is how we collected the data. This is where the data is from. This is what the data shows. This is our recommendations. You can do this, this, this. They had a whole section where they're just like showing different language from like the language in this police contract, the language in this, like studies from Oxford, from UChicago, from like, it's just really great.
We wish we had the city councils that great in every city, huh?
Well, I mean, it's good that the city council invited them to come give a presentation before they started negotiating like that, to kind of see like what is the best practice, you know, what does the research show?
The Campaign Zero, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's their chance to talk to a city council. The Campaign Zero, that's actually great.
Yeah, they are great. And so it was the Portland City Council, the police chief, and another representative from the police department, their legal counsel, and you know, the mayor were all there, and it was mostly a presentation, but then they would kind of pop in with questions from time to time. And yeah, it was very
okay. I will be exploring all this information. Thank you so much.
All right.
I guess we better end the meeting with just the two of us.
I guess so.
It was really